This is a replay of Let's Talk Nigeria on Sparkling 92.3 FM Calabar, making Nigeria better, one conversation at a time.
We talk everything. Health, education, finance, sports, transportation, agriculture, politics,
entertainment,
people and power on Let's Talk Nigeria. Let's Talk Nigeria. Every day of the week from 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. Only on Sparkling 92.3 FM Calabar. Your radio, your charm.
Welcome. It's time for Let's Talk Nigeria on Sparkling 92.3 FM Calabar, Cross River State, Nigeria. I think it's the start of the rainy season already because it's raining cats and dog. Earlier this morning, we saw the rain fall. This morning, hours later, it's falling terribly well. But all the same, while you're going out this morning, please do well to wear the right clothing and no speeding. Maintain the right speed levels so as to ensure that nobody becomes a casualty of wrong driving. All the same, welcome. It's time to talk about Nigeria and Sini Williams Ojeka. What is wrong with you?
There's nothing wrong with me. I'm just excited. There's rain outside.
Yes.
The temperature will be changing.
Yeah.
For all of the people who have been complaining about the heat.
Yes.
This is just
for someone like me who has been, terribly disturbed by the heat wave.
Where have you been?
Yes, I have.
Tell me about it.
I'm a new mom, so I have. All right, so this morning, Nigerians, perseverance, we need to talk about something really important. So, for pretty long years, we've had this narrative being painted, or the picture being painted, that the coup of 1966 that took place on the 15th of January 1966 was an Igbo coup. But last week, I think it was on Thursday, at the launch of the book Journey in Service, the autobiography of former military head of state Ibrahim Babangida, he revealed in page 39 the actual truth of what played out that very day. That even though that particular coup was led by a man whose name is, or who he's late now, Kaduna Nzogu. According to his book, Kaduna Nzogu was born and brought up in Kaduna State, and he is from Delta State. And he went on to say that the original reason or the intention of that coup was not ethnic, because there was no ethnic, no coup activities happening in the eastern part of the country when that particular coup took place. Rather, it was for the purpose of bringing Chief Obafemi Awolowo into power. So this morning, we want to talk about this. Is this expose going to bring the needed healing that the Igbo people have been seeking for? And the Igbo people also have come out to ask for compensation of 10 trillion naira from the president. Will the compensation be enough to assuage their feelings for the last 59 years? And will this put to an end all of the back and forth, all of the negative narrative that have followed that 1966 coup? Silly.
Yes. Looking through all of the drama, the expose really is a good one. Is an expose that Nigerians would have to look at and learn from, most especially during this democratic era where lots of mistakes have been made and some praise singers have not been able to stop with the praise singing. They still continue with it, and eventually when we might hear of an outcome like this later, I hope that the praise singers would have learned from what we're saying now. But like Ibb'S said, that the coup wasn't for ethnic reasons but to introduce another entity into power. Well, we can say that is still in existence even to this present moment in our democracy. And well, we have the expert here who would tell us more about it.
And we have a barrister, Fred NZEAKOR, a legal practitioner, a developmental economist, join us this morning, and he is deeply rooted in the history. Good morning to you, Barrister Fred. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. Good morning, and good morning to our dear listeners.
Yes, thank you for joining us this morning. All right, let's start off with this. When you saw, or when you heard what IBB said about the Igbo coup, what was your first reaction?
Well, my first reaction was that IBB has once again joined other people who were informed about what transpired on 15th of January 1966 in the first military coup in Nigerian political history. IBB has once again joined those reasonable voices to correct the wrong impression that was brought out by some naysayers to tarnish the image, integrity, and withhold the prospect of political ascendancy of the Ibb'S. The coup of 1966 has a historical antecedent from, or rather, historical causes and effects. The cause of that coup was an organized coup by young military officers. Then, essentially, most of them were in the rank of major. They were called the 5 majors that planned that coup with the sole aim of releasing from Calabar prison Chief of Afemi Awolowo that was tried for treasonable felony by Honorable Justice George Shode Indesho Wemimo's committee and imprisoned for life. And the young military officers felt that that was wrong because Afemi Awolowo represented an enigmatic movement for the survival and development of Nigeria. And they felt that keeping such a man out of circulation will not augur well for the country. And they now planned a coup. And that coup eventually succeeded in part and failed in another. Essentially, the failure of the coup was more than the success. Because the coup, unfortunately, took the lives of some other notable Nigerians, and some were spared, some were lucky to have survived the coup. But most unfortunately for the unity of the country, the wrong narrative was being peddled that it was an Igbo coup. And the reason for such peddling was because the notable leaders of the North, unfortunately, were killed. Some people lost their lives in the West. The notable leaders in the East, some were killed and some were spared. Spared not because of the plan to spare them, but spared because of the failure of the men that were to man the eastern flank. They could not succeed in carrying out their own responsibilities as are planned by the coup plotters and their supporters. And unfortunately, because of the ethnic bigotry, ethnic tension that came out of that, it was now wrongly, very, very wrongly, and very unfortunately tagged to be an Igbo coup. The major plotters of that coup were not Ibb'S. The ringleader of that coup, yes, was of Igbo extraction. Major Chukwuma Kaduna Nzeogo was born, brought up in Kaduna, and lived all his life in the north. Hardly spoke any Igbo apart from greetings. He hardly spoke any Igbo apart from greetings from Opanam. As at the time the coup was carried out, Opanam was in the Midwestern state, or rather in the Midwestern region. Recall that Midwestern region was carved out from old Western region and partly from the old Eastern region in 1963, following a referendum that was conducted in August 1963. And the most majority of the people now said, yes, we wanted a region of our own. Again, historically, that was the first and major referendum that was conducted in Nigeria. And it is on the basis of such referendum that many people who are now angling for self-determination are referring to such a referendum that Nigeria has a history of conducting a referendum. The referendum was the one conducted that led to the creation of Midwestern states. So as at 1966, when the coup took place, the hometown of Major Nzeakoor, Opanam, was a Midwestern state. But of course, he is of Igbo extraction. The other two plotters, his colleagues, were essentially non-Igbos. If you read any of the books of the main critical participants in that coup, Major Igbo and the rest of them, you will see that appendage that is on an Igbo coup was a very horrible one. And eventually it had own implications because it led to the pogrom, the annihilation and killing of the Ibb'S, not only in the north, but in other parts of the country. And as at that time, when they say Igbo, they even meant not just the people from Igbo stuff, anybody, even the South, the whole of Eastern region there, we are tagged with one dirty brush, and most of the people started losing their lives. It is one part of Nigerian political history that is always filled with sentiments, filled with emotions, and filled with anguish when you begin to narrate the sufferings of the people and the impact it had on the lives of the Ibb'S. And that is why even in our dialogue this morning, we will try as much as possible to avoid being emotive or raising emotional sentimentalism. Rather, we will essentially discuss the core issues with a view to correcting the wrongs and aligning the minds of especially the young ones who are listening to us, who did not know anything about what happened before and after the war.
Okay.
So that we need to pursue the healing process.
Yes.
But of course, we will never forget the history.
All right. Thank you very much, Barrister Fred. Thank you for laying that foundation. Now, from what you said and from what we also know, before this book released by Ibb'S, there have been other books like Why We Struck by Ademoyega. And in that book, it was also said that he actually painted a real picture of what played out that very day. But why has this wrong narrative lingered up until this time?
Yes, not just Ibb'S, that Ibb'S own is the latest one. Like you said, the Ademoyega's book has said it. The book by Alexander Amadiebo had also said it. The book by Colonel Boulier also said it. The book by Brigadier Alabi Isama, Brigadier General Alabi Isama, had also said it. The book by Obasanjo himself had also said it, Obasanjo. And all those men who witnessed firsthand the events of before the Civil and during the Civil War. And the God spread a lot of them to live after the Civil War, to put their hands on paper about what really happened. If you also read the book by Frederick Forsyth about Ojukwu, he also said such, because all these
Hello, barrister.
Hello, barrister.
Okay, I think we'll have to reconnect. But so far, he's been able to lay a foundation. And
True.
he was trying to say that before this time, several books have been written that painted the real picture of what played out that day. But why is it that these books were not, maybe as prominent as this one? And
No,
were
it's not.
able to
It's not like
declare-
it's not like those books as then were not prominent or were not referred to. It just goes a whole long way to tell us about political
reading
will.
culture. Okay.
Political will. Some of the big wigs presently in power know about what transpired then. They knew about the agitation of the Eastern people, and that's why till tomorrow people still ask why you holding Sir or Mazen Nnamdi Kanu, whichever we want to call him, right? And they're asking why you holding him. He's just someone who's aggrieved owing to the fact of what had been done to his region way before now. And the Igbos are calling for a compensation, but then, like you have asked, the monies that they have asked for, is it well enough to compensate them? And even if they would get the monies, how would they distribute it?
We have Barrister join us back. Barrister, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, you
Yes,
were
I
saying
can hear
something.
you well.
Yes, before the network yanked you.
I don't know where I
So,
stopped because
I
I
had
just
asked
continued.
you. I had asked you before the IBB's book. There were other books. Several books were written about the real picture of what happened that day.
Yes, several books. The one by Godwin Alabi Stama, the one by Alexander Mwadiebo, the one by Frederick Forsyth, captioned Ojukwu, the one by Ademoyega, the one by even Obasanjo himself. All of them had expressed that narrative, corrected that narrative that it was not an Igbo coup. These were people that were unbiased, but they didn't like the way things were going in Nigeria. And essentially, majority of them were not of Igbo extraction, even though the leader of that coup, Major Chukwumasanna Nzogwu, who was Igbo only by name and ancestry, but his life and times were essentially in the north. That's why that name Kaduna is in his name. Born in Kaduna, brought up in Kaduna, and lived all through his life in Kaduna. Could hardly speak Igbo, apart from the greetings. So it was important to correct that narrative so that Nigeria, being a multi-ethnic country, would continue to live in peace with one another. I mean the citizens, the various nationalities that make up Nigeria. So that is it. And General Muhammad Ibrahim Babangida has just added his own voice to the correct narrative that it was essentially not an Igbo coup. So anybody who still is not seeing that negative sentiment against the Igbos should better be well advised and then embrace peace, because it's only peace that will allow the various nationalities to continue to cohabit as a nation. So, in a manner of speaking, I believe that the reverberation that we are seeing around the country is because of the personality of Ibrahim Babangida, who has joined his voice to the voices of others before him in his own book, so that posterity will continue to note that the unfortunate incidences of those military coups were not to be tagged or hung again on the neck of any ethnic nationality, but to be able to put the proper perspectives and the issues in place the way they should for the progress, peace, and development of the entire country called Nigeria.
All right, Barrister, my question now is, the expose in the book by Ibrahim Badamasi Babangida, has it really done us good, or matter of fact, it is here to divide us going forward?
The book captured, because it's a journey. He called it a journey in service. It did not dwell on one issue. It dwelt on his experiences over time. As a matter of fact, the caption of that book is very apt, because for a journey you take off and you continue until you terminate your journey. So he has narrated his experiences in his public service, starting from when he joined the public service through the military. And I believe that what the book will do is to help to heal certain wounds, even though a lot of people are very angry about the incidences leading to the annulment and after the annulment of June 12, 1993 election. That singular act of annulment had messed up completely the place of Ibrahim Babangida in Nigerian history and has dwarfed all the major achievements he had during his military era. He achieved quite a lot in all aspects of Nigerian life, but ended up very ingloriously on account of the June 12 annulment. But what the book will do, for those who are interested in the truth, the book will lay to rest permanently and finally the issues about ethnicizing the first military coup of 1966. Because it was that unnecessary ethnicization that led to the second military coup that happened in December 1966, 6 months after the first one. The first one happened in January, the second one happened in July, and both were fatal and brought a lot of untoward disturbance and uncertainty in the Nigerian political space. And ever since then, Nigeria has never remained the same. Several military coups that followed, and even the civilian dispensation, had tried to etch in the minds of the people this terrible thing called tribalism, religious bigotry, and unfair relationship. And that is why we keep asking that we may have to go back to the drawing board to pick up our pieces from where it stopped, from 1963 Constitution. Yes, we have a 1999 Constitution that essentially has not been able to address all the many issues that are bedeviling our development. But all these things are discussions for another day when we talk about the restructuring of the country along the line of true fiscal federalism. But I want to believe that with more of such books from Ibrahim Babangida, a lot of people who want to seek the truth and know the truth will have enough resource base to be able to read up, know the truth, and be guided by the truth. Some of the things he may have written may be painted, some of them may be decorated, some may be outrightly truth, some may be funnily wrong, and some may be anchored on propaganda. But the beautiful thing is that Nigerians will be able to read through the book and read through the mind of the man that was called Maradona and who dribbled the country for 8 good years and ended up delivering nothing in terms of democracy. Yes, he may have delivered an infrastructural development, but the sore point of his regime was the failure to advance the cause of democracy in Nigeria. And that has become a very big albatross on not only his conscience, but on his history as a Nigerian leader.
All right. Thank you so far, Barrister Fred. 0812-723-7060 or 0809-230-0022. Please do well to call in, ask your questions, make your contributions accordingly based on the rules of the House, the rules of engagement. We have a question here. I'm going to direct that question to Barrister because he's a man of the law. This one is from Jackie Wakizaki. He's asking, he's saying rather before he asked the question, I have said it before, lack of accountability is our downfall. Is IBB not supposed to be prosecuted for aiding a crime this big? That's what he's asking. Barrister Fred.
Yes, if you ask for prosecution of IBB, you may not be towing the right line because IBB was not a civilian president. He was a military dictator. If you prosecute him, then you have to prosecute all the military dictators that are alive. And how do you now prosecute those that are dead? As of today, Agri is dead. Gowon is alive. Ibrahim Babangida is alive. Muhammad Buhari is alive. Sani Abacha is dead. And they were not alone. These were the arrowheads. There were other men who worked with them to organize and implement the coup d'etat, the various coup d'etat that all happened in Nigeria. And if you say you want to prosecute them, in governmental administration, coup d'etat is evil, but once it succeeds, it is no longer evil. It becomes legitimate. That is the funny thing about coups. Because once a coup d'etat succeeds, the government that is formed becomes a legitimate government, because at that point they will suspend all constitutional authorities and institutions, and they take over power and begin to administer the country based on their own military knowledge and experience, and based on whatever little administrative knowledge that they have. So you cannot say, oh, one has committed a treason by successful coup. One is charged for treason when his coup fails, like the one that Gideon Orka and co-organized. Their own coup failed, and they were charged for treason and shot. The one involving Mama Mpasa failed, and they were shot. The one involving Bukasuka Dinka and his group failed. The one that tried to kill Murtala Muhammad, and they were rounded up and shot, killed. Any coup that failed becomes an offense.
Okay.
Any coup that succeeds becomes a government.
Okay.
So if you now say you have to charge all of them, that means you are ready to charge all past leaders of Nigeria from independence till date.
All right. Thank you, Barrister Fred, for answering that question. Jackie Wakizaki, I hope this answers your question. But we need to stop now. So when we return, we'll continue with this conversation. Please, Barrister Fred, stay with us.
Number one. Music, sport, and talk radio. Let it hit 'em.
Ladies and gentlemen.
Sparkling 92.3 FM. Calabar's number one. Number one. Music, sport, and talk radio. Let it hit 'em.
Ladies and gentlemen.
Sparkling 92.3 FM.
This is a replay of Let's Talk Nigeria on Sparkling 92.3 FM Calabar, making Nigeria better, one conversation at a time.
We talk everything. Health, education, finance, sports, transportation, agriculture, politics,
entertainment,
people and power. On Let's Talk Nigeria. Let's Talk Nigeria. Every day of the week from 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. Only on Sparkling 92.3 FM Calabar. Your radio, your charm.
Welcome back. Thank you so much for staying with us. It's still Let's Talk Nigeria on the Sparkling Morning Show on Sparkling 92.3 FM Calabar. Still talking about the expose in the book Journey in Service, written or an autobiography of former military President Ibrahim Badamasi Babangida. And Barrister Fred NZEAKOR has been helping us understand everything. The purpose of this conversation is to actually, join part in the conversation of bringing healing to the Igbo community in Nigeria, to the Ibb'S in Nigeria, because that's what I want to believe that particular write-up will do. Now, if you have your questions, if you have your contributions to make, do well to call the numbers 0812-723-7060 or 0809-230-0022. And you can also drop us a message on WhatsApp, your questions, also as a text message. We will be glad to, receive all of them. Okay, Barrister Fred, the Ohanese Ndi Igbo, they are asking for an apology. Barrister Fred, can you hear me? Okay, we'll reconnect with him. So Ohanese Ndi Igbo is asking for an apology, and they're also asking for 10 trillion naira compensation. Senior, you were asking if they get it, how are they going to
So the first question is, who would it go to?
Who would it go to?
Who will account for it? In whose account will it go into?
Ohanese Ndi Igbo.
And how will they distribute it? Just like Barrister has said, which of the families will you serve with whatever compensation you intend to serve? Because some of them are dead and gone. Those who were really affected.
Okay, let's take this call. Hello, good morning.
Good morning, everybody in the studio.
Good morning to you, sir.
Yes, good morning to you.
Good morning, everybody.
We can hear you.
Go
good
ahead.
morning.
Hello?
We can hear
Hello?
you.
Oh, it's about
Okay, this is Mr. Pierre from Kalabi Quality.
Okay.
All right, Mr. Pius, go ahead.
So now I've asked the analyzer, I don't know whether it's there with you, but I wanted to ask him whether it was, because the way he analyzed it, it seemed like it was a man who is totally partake in all those results, not reading in form of history. So I wanted to ask him, was it formally told that before he retired to read law, become a lawyer? So that's just my question.
Was he a military officer?
Because I love the way I answered all those questions, very clear and plain, and so we follow the two parts on it. Thank you for having me.
Okay, thank you for your position there.
He's an elderly man, should be over 70, so I think he's well versed with history, and he witnessed some of these things, maybe not directly.
But then
he
if
was
you're a student of law as at that time, you should have some of those histories in your book.
Yes. Hello, good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning, Sir Williams and my sister Okamaka.
Good morning to you, Mr. Bossy.
Please, I want to thank you sincerely for the choice of your guest. I want to commend him for giving us a rundown of all the military account of what happened in the time past. But if I have the capacity, I will give him up to 90%. But I want to disagree with him somehow that those alive, like Buhari, Babangida, and Gowon, are not supposed to face trial. No! They have done something evil. What they did, majority of what they did was evil, especially Babangida. It does evil. What is evil? Evil is evil. Evil has no classification. There is no big or small evil. But anything that deviates from good, the annulment of June 12 was evil. Babangida needs to face trial. If he fails, Charles Dickens once said, when crime is seen to go unpunished, the heart of the people is crowded with rebellion. Many people are not happy with Babangida. That is why he delays. He is a prisoner of conscience. His conscience disallows him to rest.
Mr. Bassi, you have made your point.
Please,
You've made your point.
We're
going to reconnect with Barrister. He's the man of the law, and from what he said earlier, you cannot try a military ruler in a civilian government,
especially when the dispensation is different.
Yeah, so let's have him back, and then we can also table your position before him and have him say something about it. Right. 0812-723-7060 or 0809-230-0022. Barrister Fred.
Yes.
Yes. Thank you. So, while you were away shortly, somebody said something. Someone disagreed with your position of saying that IBB and some other former military head of state cannot be tried.
Or should not be tried.
I am not saying that they should not be tried. I am saying that you cannot single out IBB for trial. That if you want to try IBB, you should be ready to try under military heads of state. And you should also ask questions from other civilian presidents because even though those ones occupy their position by the collective vote and mandate of the people, some of them occupied the positions on rigged elections, which of course undermines the mandate of the people. But Nigeria has never had a history of asking questions for accountability from any of the past leaders. So it would be unfair to single out one man for trial. If you want to try any man, let it go round. Muhammad Buhari is still alive. Olusegun Obasanjo is still alive. Yakubu Gowon is still alive. Abdul Salami Abubakar is still alive. All these four past heads of state, military heads of state, are still alive. So why single out IBB for trial? That was my position. And I say that again, that Nigeria does not have that history of trying their past heads of state or heads of government, apart from the one that Buhari did in 1983-84, essentially 1984, when he tried the government of President Shehu Shagari. But at the end of the day, it was found out that such trial was more vindictive than diligent prosecution. And ever since then, no other leader, no other past leader of Nigeria that has ever been tried. So if anybody wants to try Babangida, trying him alone and leaving out others will be unfair. Let us get ready to try every other person. That was my position.
Okay. Mr. Bassi, he's explained, and I hope it's okay by you, but you're free to still keep your opinion, right? So I'm moving on. The Ohanes and Ndi Igbo, they have demanded an apology and they are asking for compensation to the tune of 10 trillion naira from Mr. President. Barrister Fred, what do you have to say about this?
How much were they asking for? 10 trillion or 10 billion?
10 trillion.
10 billion.
Trillion.
Okay, 10 trillion naira. 10 trillion. Good. From who? Is it from federal government or from Ibrahim Babangida?
From Mr. Tinubu. That's what we have as a report from the president.
If they're asking for Mr. Tinubu, that means from
the
federal government, because Tinubu as a person has not wronged them, has not committed any offense. So the demand should not be made on Mr. President as a person. Rather, they are possibly making the demand from the federal government. It just happens that Mr. Tinubu is on power today, so he now represents the federal government. Yes, Haneze, it's good to ask for such, but that must be anchored on reality. We're talking about such compensation because of civil war or the pogrom that happened in 1965, 66, 67, before the civil war actually took place. Or are we asking for compensation because of the lives lost during the war, or because of the soldiers of Biafra that we are not reintegrated, or because of the lack of proper implementation of the 3R, the reconciliation, the reintegration, and the rehabilitation. Rehabilitation, reconstruction, and reintegration that was improperly and very poorly implemented. And that is why up to today you are not getting reasonable number of federal government presence in the whole of Southeast, which we call the Biafra enclave. So we have to understand truly and fairly what they mean and what they are asking for. Yes, it is good to make such demand, but I think the demand is only for record purposes, just to fulfill all righteousness, because nobody is going to pay anybody any compensation, even though the people of Biafra deserve compensation by the people of Nigeria. But today, Biafra has been integrated into Nigeria, even though not fully. And I think what Ohaneze should be hammering and asking for is for full reintegration of the SY people of Biafra, such that this seeming marginalization and deprivation that has become almost like an official policy of federal government should stop. This division in Nigeria, this segregation against the Igbos should stop until the Igbos are fully reintegrated into the mainstream of Nigerian system. They will not stop asking for such fair treatment. The young ones who didn't see the war and who are even asking for Biafra to be resuscitated and for Biafra to be broken away from Nigeria on the basis of principle of self-determination. To a very large extent, if you look at their grievances and the reasons why they have those grievances, you will be tempted to agree with them. But then, even without conceding, it is right that the Igbos be fully reintegrated. Even without agreeing to some modus operandi, we advocate that the Igbos be fully integrated, so that the glass ceiling placed on the roof head of the Igbos should be removed. Part of the reasons people are asking that let an Igbo man be supported by others to become the president of the country. That will be one of the very important ways of ensuring such reintegration. But aside from that apex, the other aspects of marginalization that we must also talk about is the fact that there is intensive marginalization of the Igbos. Government of President Muhammad Buhari planned the rail system for the country and intentionally sidelined the Igbo states. The states of the southeast, none benefited from such policy. Secondly, another huge one, there is a federal government gas master plan, gas pipeline master plan that will take off from the Niger Delta and be terminating at various states up to the north, and which the government are even taken outside the country to Niger Republic. Yet again, it did not drop in any of the 5 southeastern states of Nigeria, despite the fact that everybody agrees that the Igbos are very entrepreneurial and they are very industrious and very skillful in what they do. So it is a huge marginalization and a huge deprivation. I think that is the aspect where we must be talking about. There is no seaport that is working for the hinterland of Igbo land. The Calabar seaport has been allowed to be underutilized. You are in Calabar, you know what I'm talking about. The seaport in Port Harcourt, intentionally, by government policy, is sidelined because that would have served the mainstream of the South-South and the Southeast. And that is what is leading to excessive overstretching of the facilities at our Papa and Tinkan Island port in Lagos. Lagos has now become the major port of importation of all things, whereas we have other ports that if you now redistribute the functionalities of this port, there will be even distribution for development all around the country. Even the inland port at Onitsha has been allowed without dredging. These are intentional federal government policies that you can say that they are aimed at continuously holding down the Igbos. Okay. But there's an adage in my place that says, if you hold somebody down, you are also down yourself. Because the very moment you lift your hands from holding down the person will get up and you too will get up. Okay. By intentionally holding the Igbos or the Southeasterners down, Nigeria is holding herself down. And that policy should stop. All right, Barrister Fred. So in essence, you're saying that instead of asking for a 10 trillion naira compensation, the Ndi Igbo should be speaking tough on these issues that you have outlined, right? Issues of infrastructure, issues of inclusivity, issues of full reintegration, issues of lack of marginalization. Why would a child in Calabar that is going to federal government college be asked to score 130 whereas the child in Zamfara will be asked to score 4. At that cradle, at that elementary stage, they are seeing segregation, they are seeing marginalization, and that is as a state policy. Why would a child from south or southeast finish education and not be able to get employment, whereas his counterpart that is 10 times better in terms of intellect and in terms of resources from another state, from another part of the country, will not just get employment, but get the juicy ones. These are the things we are talking about. And I believe that these are the conversations and that should occupy the space, and not the issue of asking for 10 trillion naira in compensation, which of course you know is a very tall order, because nobody is going to pay any compensation. So in reality, instead of asking for such kind of compensation, yes, they can do so just to express themselves and express the level of marginalization or deprivation against the Igbos. But the real ones, the achievable ones, the ones that are be delivered, I expect they should be asking for such.
Okay. All right. Thank you. 0812-723-7060 or 009-230-0022. Also take to WhatsApp and drop your messages, your comment, your contributions, your questions, and also drop us a text. We'll also get to read all of those things. Barrister Fred NZEAKOR, we've been talking about the expose in the book of IBB and how he cleared the whole negative narrative that had been peddled about the 15th of January 1966 coup, and he has given us the real picture of it, and it's for Nigerians to take on this and also run with it. Barrister Fred, I have this question. Do you think that the exclusion of history in our curriculum, in the educational curriculum of Nigerian schools, have also aided in having this narrative fly from one point in time to another?
I agree with you completely. It was a very sad reality that history will be suspended from being taught in schools especially at secondary level, because people that don't know their history are likely to repeat the same mistakes of the past. But with history taught in schools, it not only enlightens the future, it shows the way, the direction, the positive direction for the future, such that the mistakes of the past will not be repeated. And whoever that brought that idea of suspension of teaching of history in school must have done the country a very terrible wrong. And if that has not been restored, let us use this opportunity to call on government at all levels to restore the teaching of history and the civic education. Because while you teach the children the history for them to know their past, you teach the civic education for them to know their present and how to navigate towards the future, having the event of the past in mind. And I do not think that those who stopped that subject have done, they didn't think it thoroughly. They just acted emotionally, and it is causing the country a lot of short-sightedness, because that is the effect. The Igbos who are crying of marginalization, or the Southeasterners and the rest, are right, because they say, how many of the federal government infrastructure can you boldly point out in the East? Why would the East have multiple checking points, military, police, and the rest of them, extorting the people as if we are in war? That is the only region, the only zone in Nigeria that has such number of checkpoints of the security agencies. Yet, there is massive insecurity in the environment, meaning that those security operatives are not securing the land, rather, they are just extorting the people. So these are issues that should come to the front burner, because it is very unfair that the zones where there are massive insecurity, where bandits are operating freely, holding down local governments and taking up chiefdoms, collecting taxes from people, they don't have such a number of military and the police and the checking points of other security agencies. But when you come to the Southeast, you will see down to all security agencies have their checking points, have their mounted roadblocks here and there. Between Enugu and Onitsha, a distance of less than 80 kilometers, we boast of between 25 and 30 checking points. Between Onitsha and Owerri, the same thing. Between Enugu and Port Harcourt, the same thing. So, Enugu to Aba, the same thing. So what are we talking about? Not only that the roads are in very terrible state of disrepair, the infrastructure not available in terms of all facilities that government, that are responsibilities of the federal government. Yet, the only thing that they have in quantum are disturbing, annoying, and exploitative military, police, and security checkpoints. These are indices that show that the Southeast is still being treated as victims of the Civil War, even after 55 years of the end of the war. So these are the narratives that we, as a people, that want to live in cohesion and the unity, must bring to the fore, so that the boy from Kaura Namoda will see himself as an equal citizen with the boy from Abagana, and vice versa, all across the country. And that is the only way Nigeria will make progress as a nation.
All right, Barrister, my question that might possibly be the last one is, will you say the Igbos have moved on after the 1990 and 1966 coup, or are they still aggrieved? If they have not moved on, what can we do to appease them? And if they have moved on, where should we credit that to?
The Igbos have, in a way, moved on. They have forgiven, but they have not forgotten. They have forgiven those who killed their kids and kin. They have forgiven those who made life miserable for them. They have forgiven those who withheld their wealth and resources and gave them only 20 pounds after the war. They have moved on because they trust in God, essentially, and they trust in their God-given talents, ingenuity, and ability. They are not looking forward to anybody to help them anymore. They are helping themselves with hard work, with consistency, and with internal love. And that is why their apprenticeship system of training, that is a unique one that has attracted the attention and the interest of Harvard University in the United States, is one in town and unbeatable. No other tribe in the world has such system, and that is what has helped them to move on. They have moved on because they have felt and said that the Nigerian nation, the Nigerian country, the Nigerian state has very little or nothing for them. Despite all the hue and cry, there seems to be a glass ceiling that is officially a policy of the federal government that the Igbos will be suppressed. How many Igbos are in public places in the country today? Go to all the public agencies and institutions of government, you will count in your fingertips the Igbos that are there. And even those that are there, they will tell you their experiences. It is the same experiences of suppression, experiences of undermining their integrity, and experiences of not allowing them to grow alongside others. Experiences of injustice, lack of equity, and lack of fairness. And in the midst of all that, they look up to God and they keep working hard to free themselves. And that is why even their young ones are saying, if you don't love us to integrate us, let us go. Leave us alone. Okay, if at the worst case scenario you don't want us to go, restructure the polity so that we will make our laws, internal laws, utilize our resources, and then try to move on and contribute our quota to the center. So, and that is leaving Nigeria with only two options for growth and development. Is either Nigeria restructures towards the line of true fiscal federalism so that the true federal structure will be undertaken, or Nigeria will be forced to dismember. And this forceful dismemberment is what everybody will say, God forbid. But with time, and as time goes on, the prophecy of America that Nigeria could crumble in 2014, Nigeria managed to push through it, but such prophecy is still hanging like the sword of Damocles on the neck of Nigeria. It is left for this country to think deeply, introspectively, include everybody, bring fairness, equity, and justice to all. And that is the only way the country will move. Otherwise, let us restructure this polity. Let the man in South use his group, because the only thing he benefits is the spoiled environment on account of oil spillage, on account of oil exploitation, and at the end of the day, the masses still suffer. The man in the Southeast is complaining, and the man in the North, being the man that is essentially gaining most from the lopsided structure of Nigeria, is also not at peace because of injustice to one is injustice to all. The very best thing for Nigeria is to sit together, talk across tables, and determine our best way to engage ourselves and live in peace and harmony towards growth and development of the country, because that's the only way we will catch up. The rest of the world has left us, and we are only tagging along like toddlers who have lost their parents. It's unfortunate that that is our reality, but we have a way out of it if we have the will.
All right. Thank you. A big thank you to you, Barrister Fred NZEAKOR, for joining this conversation. Really insightful one. We appreciate you for making our time. Thank you very much, and have a lovely Tuesday.
Many thanks.
All right. And thank you to you too for joining us, being part of the conversation. Senator Williams Ojeka.
Yes, well, it has gone a long way with the conversation to let us know that it is a thing of political will. Where there is a will, there's a way, there's a power. So everybody collectively would have to make this decision. And this is where we draw the curtain for today. Join us again tomorrow. We'll do the same thing. But remember, Nigeria's all asked to build, all hands on deck. I am Senator Williams Ojeka.
Ukumaka Richard Bassi is my name. God bless.
Number one. Music, sports, and talk radio. Let it hit on.
Ladies and gentlemen.
Sparkling 92.3 FM.